Welcome to the Playing Books podcast. Today, we're taking a truly fascinating deep dive into a book that's made waves for decades. It's genuinely changed millions of lives. John Gray's classic, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
Oh yeah, definitely a title everyone knows. You hear it quoted all the time.
Exactly. And for good reason, right? This book isn't just, a cultural catchphrase. It's a really practical guide. It's transformed countless relationships.
Including the author's own, which is quite telling. His marriage, how he relates as a father.
Yes. He shares this really striking personal story. He talks about how the very same frustrating issues he had with his wife, Bonnie, like 23 years ago, they still pop up today.
Wow, 23 years, that's commitment.
It is. But the profound difference now, he says, is his response. And that response is rooted directly in the insights from this book. It's all about greater tolerance, acceptance, understanding.
It's not about the problems disappearing, but how you handle them changing.
Precisely. Our mission on this podcast is to really embark on a comprehensive journey through the entire book. We want to pull out those nuggets of knowledge, those surprising facts, sort of a shortcut to being truly well-informed about these often baffling dynamics between men and women.
The Martian and Venusian ways of being.
Right. We want to help you, our listener, gain a much better understanding of where your partner is genuinely coming from. The goal is to make relationships easier, more fulfilling, maybe even inspire the best in each other.
And that's so relevant today, isn't it?
Totally. This whole discussion is tailor-made for you, whether you're, prepping for a meeting, trying to get up to speed on relationships, or just insanely curious about improving your connections.
And zooming out a bit, what Gray does so brilliantly is connect these personal struggles to the bigger picture of modern life.
How so?
Well, think about it. We have increasing stress from work, right? But at the same time, we have these incredibly high expectations for lasting romance and intimacy at home. Higher than ever before, arguably.
That's a tough combination. Stress and high expectations.
Exactly. So the fundamental challenges in relationships, they're pretty universal. And the book's really radical idea, it's almost counterintuitive, is that it's not about trying to change your partner. That's kind of their journey, if they choose it.
Okay, so it's not about fixing the other person?
No. The core message, the real paradigm shift, is about changing the ways you communicate, you react, you respond. Gray basically says, look, this is a job for you, not for your partner. It puts the power for improving the relationship squarely in your hands.
That's empowering, but also a lot of responsibility.
It is. But this new insight, as he puts it so well, gives you added wisdom and power to adjust your approach. And that leads to much more effective ways of giving support, receiving support, and ultimately strengthening those bonds in, really remarkable ways.
Okay, so let's unpack this foundational idea. Let's start with John Gray's own story. It's deeply personal, incredibly vulnerable, and it really shows the power of understanding these Martian and Venusian realities he talks about.
Those famous metaphors for how men and women think, feel, communicate so differently.
Exactly. He recounts this time shortly after their daughter Lauren was born. Both he and Bonnie were just completely wiped out, that new parent exhaustion.
Oh, I remember that feeling, or lack thereof.
Right. And Bonnie had had a really tough delivery, a serious tear. She was on strong painkillers, could barely walk. So John helps out at home for 5 days. Then, assuming she's getting better, he goes back to work.
Okay, makes sense. Seems reasonable.
But while he was gone, something critical happened. Bonnie ran out of her pain pills.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And instead of calling John at the office, she asked his visiting brother to pick some up. But the brother, unfortunately, forgot.
Ouch! So she was stuck.
Stuck in excruciating pain all day, trying to care for a newborn, and John, completely absorbed in his work, totally clueless.
Terrible timing.
So when he gets home, Bonnie is, understandably, extremely upset. Her pain, her isolation, it all just boils over. She says something like, I've been in pain all day, I ran out of pills, I've been stranded in bed, nobody cares.
Oh, that sounds rough. And probably accusatory to his ears.
Totally. John, in that moment, completely misinterpreted her distress. His initial knee-jerk Martian reaction. Defensive. Why didn't you call me?
The classic problem-solving attempt that misses the emotion.
Exactly. He felt this surge of fury, convinced she was blaming him for something he couldn't possibly have known about. They have this heated exchange. He feels attacked, misunderstood, hits his limit, and literally heads for the door. Just wants to escape.
That fight-or-flight response kicking in.
Right. But then comes the turning point. The moment he says changed his life. Bonnie, from her place of pain, pleads, Stop, please don't leave. This is when I need you the most.
Wow.
Please come over here and hold me. You don't have to say anything. She goes on, her voice raw. Right now I'm in pain. I have nothing to give. This is when I need you the most. Please come over here and hold me. You don't have to say anything. I just need to feel your arms around me. Please don't go.
That takes incredible vulnerability from her side, too, in that state.
It really does. And in that pivotal moment, everything shifted. John Gray, instead of retreating or rationalizing, he just walked over and silently held her. She wept in his arms, and after a few minutes, just thanked him.
Simple, but profound.
He realized that day the true meaning of unconditional love. He admitted he'd always thought of himself as loving, but he'd really been a fair-weather friend.
Yeah.
Loving when she was happy, easy.
But pulling away when things got tough.
Yeah. When she was upset, he'd felt blamed, argued, or just distanced himself, withdrawing love when it was most needed. But this time, he stayed. He was present. And it felt like real love, he said, caring for someone even in their darkest moment, trusting their love, being there at her hour of need. Such a powerful lesson in empathy over immediate problem solving.
It really illustrates the core difference in needs at that moment. She didn't need a solution to the pills. She needed connection and safety.
Exactly. And the real-world impact of these ideas isn't just in his story. He shares others, like Susan and Jim, married 9 years, on the verge of divorce.
Lost the spark, lots of frustration.
Totally. They thought their problems were unique, insurmountable. But then they attend one of Gray's seminars, and they're genuinely amazed to learn their differences were not only normal, but were to be expected.
Ah, the normalization effect, realizing you're not alone, and it's not necessarily a fault.
Right. This fundamental shift in perspective, understanding it was this Martian-Venusian dynamic, not a personal failing, it miraculously changed their relationship. They fell in love again 6 years later, still going strong, thanking Gray. It just shows how powerful that shift from blame to understanding can be.
It really does. Takes the pressure off, in a way.
So thinking about that powerful story, maybe for you listening, consider a time when you might have misinterpreted a loved one's distress or withdrawal. What was your initial gut reaction, and what did you maybe learn later, looking back?
Yeah. How might that moment have played out differently with this kind of understanding? It's a good reflection exercise. And expanding on that, Gray's book really functions as this foundational primer, doesn't it? For understanding and communicating with the opposite sex. Doesn't matter if you're dating, married for ages, whatever.
Yeah, and it's amazing how he's expanded these core ideas since then into dating, marriage, sex, even like grief recovery, parenting, the workplace.
It highlights just how universal these dynamics are across all kinds of relationships.
Absolutely.
But a really critical, almost paradoxical insight from the book is the danger of expectation. We so often fall into that trap thinking men shouldn't be that way or women shouldn't react that way.
Right, wanting them to be more like,
Yeah,
well, like us.
exactly. And Gray argues that's not just unrealistic, it's actively damaging. When we constantly wish they were different, it sends this powerful, even if unspoken message, you are not good enough.
Oof, yeah, nobody wants to hear that.
And as Gray says plainly, that is definitely not a loving message. Sure, a woman's love can inspire a man to grow, but ultimately he has to make that change. And similarly, it's not a man's job to fix a woman. Most of the time, she just needs more understanding, more affection, not a 5-point plan.
It's about acceptance, not alteration.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this point is so relevant right now in our current historical moment. For the first time, really on such a massive scale, men and women are working side by side professionally.
True. Big shift.
And at the same time, we have these higher expectations for deep romance and intimacy at home than probably any previous generation.
So more overlap in the world, more demands at home.
Yes. And without a positive, empathetic way to interpret our different reactions and needs, it's so easy to just blame our problems on our partners rather than looking at our own approach, our own understanding. Expecting or demanding sameness in thinking, feeling, reacting, it just sets you up for failure and disappointment.
It's fascinating, really, how the book, written quite a while ago now, challenged that push for sameness between genders.
It really did. Gray argues it's precisely our unique ways of thinking, feeling, perceiving, reacting that need to be understood and respected, not smoothed over or, homogenized into some gender-neutral ideal. The differences are the point, in a way.
Okay, but what about people who read it and think, wait, I'm a woman, but I relate more to the Martian stuff, or vice versa, that role reversal idea?
Yeah, it's a really common experience, and Gray addresses it directly. He reassures readers explicitly, everything is all right. It doesn't mean something's wrong with you.
So why might that happen?
Well, there are a few reasons. Societal pressures play a huge role. The modern workforce often rewards traditionally masculine traits, assertiveness, logic, problem solving, right?
Definitely.
So sometimes men might deny some of those traits to try and be more nurturing or emotionally expressive, maybe seen as more modern. And women, especially in male dominated fields, might suppress some traditionally feminine attributes to succeed professionally.
Ah, so it's adapting to the environment.
It can be. The book encourages deeper self-reflection here, not to force yourself into a stereotype, but to recognize and maybe balance these inherent characteristics within yourself. The goal is more passionate, fulfilling relationships where your true self, maybe a blend of Martian and Venusian traits, can actually thrive. It's about authenticity, not conformity.
Okay, so let's explore something truly fascinating now. This is one of the biggest, most fundamental differences Gray highlights, how men and women instinctively cope with stress.
Ah, yes, the classic Mars versus Venus stress response.
Exactly. When men get stressed, Gray explains, they tend to become increasingly focused and withdrawn. They metaphorically go into their cave
Right, shut down, get quiet, maybe stare blankly at the TV.
or bury themselves in work. Whereas women, on the other hand, tend to become increasingly overwhelmed and emotionally involved. Understanding this difference and respecting it is just crucial for avoiding so much unnecessary friction.
It really is. It explains a lot of misunderstandings.
So for Martians, relief from stress often comes from silently solving problems, or even diverting their attention to other problems they can solve.
Like focusing on a hobby or a project.
Yeah, or take Gray's example, Tom. Stressful day at work. His instinct. Relax, unwind by quietly reading the news. He's stressed by his own unsolved problems, so he finds relief by momentarily forgetting them and kind of vicariously solving the world's problems through the news.
Shifting focus to something external, less personal pressure.
Right, his mind goes from his work stress to issues he's not directly responsible for. That mental shift releases tension. Or maybe Jim turns on a football game. He lets go of his personal worries by mentally dissecting the game, solving the problems of his favorite team.
Right, analyzing plays, criticizing the coach.
Exactly. Each play, each score, it provides a feeling of success, even if it's vicarious. It's a release from the tension of his own life. The key is focused, often solitary problem solving.
Even if it's not his problem he's solving.
Right. But Venusians, total contrast. When a woman is stressed, she instinctively feels this compelling need to talk about her feelings, talk about all the possible problems swirling around.
The processing happens externally through verbalizing.
Precisely. And she's not immediately looking for solutions. In fact, jumping in with solutions can be deeply irritating for her.
Yes, the classic Mr. Fix-It misstep.
She seeks relief simply by expressing herself and being understood. By just talking randomly about her problems, letting it all out, she paradoxically becomes less upset. It's her primary way to process, offload, and release that stress.
It's like clearing the emotional cache.
Yeah, good way to put it. Now, this fundamental difference, when it's misunderstood or, worse, disrespected, leads to so much friction and hurt feelings.
Oh, absolutely. He thinks she talks too much, she feels ignored.
Right. Men might secretly think, why can't she just calm down and get to the point? Or, why won't she just take my brilliant solution? Meanwhile, women feel ignored, dismissed, unloved when men withdraw into silence or just offer unwanted advice. Neither side really gets the other's natural coping mechanism.
Leading to that vicious cycle of hurt, resentment, and growing distance.
Let's loop back to John Gray's story about Bonnie and the pain pills. It's such a perfect illustration. When he came home, found her upset, his Martian instinct was pure problem solving. Why didn't she call me?
Focused on the logistics, the fix.
Totally. He was furious. She seemed to be blaming him for her pain, pain he thought could have been avoided with a simple call. But Bonnie wasn't looking for a solution or logic or blame.
She was in pain and felt alone. She needed connection.
Exactly. She felt profoundly deserted. She needed emotional support. His problem-solving mindset completely missed her. Venusian need to just be heard, understood, and held. He offered a solution when she desperately needed empathy.
Resulting in more distress for both, pushing them apart.
So, as you reflect on these contrasting styles, think about how you typically deal with stress. Do you tend to withdraw, process internally, maybe through solitary stuff? Or do you instinctively need to talk things out, find an empathetic ear?
And how might your preferred style impact your interactions with others, especially those who cope differently? Just noticing that in yourself is a huge first step, isn't it?
It really is. Self-awareness is key. Hashtag tag 2.2, the unsolicited advice dilemma.
And building on that, it's fascinating how these different coping styles often lead to, well, misdirected attempts to help each other, even with the best intentions.
Right, like trying to apply your own operating manual to someone else's system.
Exactly. A common scenario Gray paints vividly is what he calls the home improvement committee.
Huh. I think I know where this is going.
Right. When a woman loves a man, she often feels this intrinsic responsibility to help him grow, help him improve how he does things, reach his full potential. He often becomes her primary focus.
And she genuinely thinks she's nurturing him, being supportive.
Absolutely. But from his Martian perspective, he often feels controlled, micromanaged, or like she's constantly trying to fix him. What he's really craving is her acceptance, her admiration, not her unsolicited advice on how to load the dishwasher better.
Yeah, that acceptance piece feels really central for Martians.
It is. And it ties into this crucial, often overlooked aspect of male psychology, that intense sensitivity around competence. To offer a man unsolicited advice, Greg explains, is to implicitly suggest he doesn't know what to do or he can't do it on his own.
Ah, it challenges his capability.
Precisely. Competence, the ability to solve problems, succeed independently, is so very important to them. Martians are generally solution-oriented, self-reliant. They rarely talk about problems unless they specifically need expert advice, asking for help when you could do it yourself, often seen as a sign of weakness.
Whereas for a woman, offering help is often just connection, an act of care.
Exactly. It's usually not intended as an insult to his capabilities at all. It's often just love in action from her perspective.
Okay, so that's the home improvement committee. What about the flip side?
The flip side is the default male setting. Mr. Fix-It.
Right. She talks, he solves.
Almost involuntarily. When a woman talks about problems, a man's instinct is to help her feel better by solving them. He genuinely believes he can be most valued and thus worthy of her love when his abilities are used to fix her problems.
It makes sense from his perspective. He's showing his value.
But the profound challenge arises when his solutions get rejected, and she keeps being upset. He struggles deeply to just listen without offering solutions because he feels useless, unappreciated, maybe even disrespected if his fix isn't accepted.
He doesn't realize just listening is the support she needs.
Exactly. He doesn't get that by just listening with empathy and interest. He can be supportive in the way she actually craves. For Venusians, remember, talking about problems is not an invitation to offer a solution. It's an invitation to connect, to validate.
Can we look at that Mary and Tom example? It really drives this home.
Oh, it's perfect. Mary comes home, exhausted day, instinctively wants to share, process out loud. She says, there is so much to do, I don't have any time for myself.
Okay, classic vent session starting.
Tom, quintessential Mr. Fix-It, jumps in believing he's helping. You should quit that job. You don't have to work so hard. Find something you like to do.
Solution 1, rejected.
Immediately. Mary, feeling unheard, clarifies, but I like my job. They just expect me to change everything at a moment's notice.
Okay, providing context, still needing to vent.
Tom, undeterred, still focused on fixing. Don't listen to them. Just do what you can do. Solution 2.
And Mary gets more frustrated.
Exactly. Because he's not hearing her feeling, he's just batting down the logistical problems. Without understanding that Venusian need to just talk and be heard, his well-intentioned problem-solving only created more distance, more misunderstanding.
Until he learned to just listen.
Yes. The situation only improves when he learns to pause, listen with empathy, maybe just say things like, sounds like you had a hard day, or, oh no. Maybe offer a hug. Validation, not solutions.
It really raises that important question, doesn't it? How often do our loving intentions, when they're not aligned with what our partner actually needs, end up creating distance instead of connection?
All the time. Men, wanting to make things better, might invalidate feelings with stuff like, you shouldn't worry so much, or it's not such a big deal, or why don't you just...
Yeah, those minimization tactics.
Yeah.
Meant to reassure, but they feel dismissive.
Totally. And women often do it too, with seemingly harmless criticism or suggestions. Things like, your hair's getting kind of long, isn't it? Or, why are we waiting for a table? Didn't you make reservations?
Ooh, yeah, those can sting.
They can make a man feel controlled, unadmired, like she doesn't trust his competence. It triggers that deep need for acceptance, even if it's meant playfully or helpfully.
So what's the practical takeaway here? What can people actually do?
Well, the book offers these really practical, actionable challenges. If you are a woman, Grace suggests, for the next week, practice consciously restraining from giving any unsolicited advice or criticism to the men in your life.
Just bite your tongue.
basically.
Yeah.
And he says the men in your life won't just appreciate it, they'll likely become more attentive and responsive because they feel accepted, not managed.
Interesting. And for men.
For men, practice listening whenever a woman speaks with the sole intention of respectfully understanding what she's going through.
Yeah.
Not solving, just listening. Try it for a week.
Just listen. It sounds simple, but it's a profound shift, isn't it?
It really can unlock so much connection. It requires conscious effort.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and explore something really fundamental to relationship dynamics. Gray uses these powerful, memorable metaphors that can completely reframe how you understand intimacy cycles. He starts with men.
Ah, the famous rubber band.
Exactly, he says. Men are like rubber bands. When they pull away, they can stretch only so far before they come springing back. It's such a vivid image.
It really captures that cycle of closeness and distance.
Right. It describes the male intimacy cycle, which, maybe counterintuitively, involves getting close, then pulling away, and then getting close again. And what's absolutely crucial to get up and profoundly misunderstood is that this pulling away, it's not a decision or choice.
It's not personal, not
Yeah.
malicious.
No, it's not a sign of lost love. It's described as an instinctive urge. It's a natural cyclical process. Neither his fault nor hers, just part of his nature, according to Gray.
That's a huge reframe for women who might take it very personally.
Totally, because women operating from a different emotional playbook often deeply misinterpret this.
Right.
And understandably, because their reasons for pulling away are usually very different.
Right. A woman might pull back if she feels hurt or doesn't trust him or if he's actually done something wrong.
Exactly. So when a man pulls away for his own natural cyclical reason, not because of her, she might mistakenly think, oh no, what did I do wrong? Or he doesn't care anymore, or he's punishing me.
When really he's just stretching the rubber band.
Yes. He pulls away primarily to fulfill this deeply ingrained need for independence or autonomy. He needs to fully stretch away, experience his separate self, recharge his, masculine energy. And once that need for independence is met, he will automatically feel his desire for love and intimacy again.
And spring back.
And spring back with renewed energy, passion, devotion.
Okay, but what's the pitfall here? What goes wrong?
The critical pitfall is what happens if a woman, out of fear or misunderstanding, insists on continuous intimacy, or worse, runs after him when he pulls away.
Tries to pull the rubber band back too soon.
Exactly. If she tries to chase him, demand connection, prevent his withdrawal, then he'll almost always keep trying to escape, distance himself further. He never gets the chance to feel his own natural longing for love build up again.
Creating this frustrating push-pull dynamic where both feel misunderstood.
It's a self-perpetuating pattern of frustration and distance. Think about Maggie and Jeff's story from the book.
Right, the couple who had that great start.
Yeah, wonderful romantic initial 6 months, perfect spring phase. Then, predictably, Jeff suddenly becomes emotionally distant, retreats into his cave.
And Maggie panicked.
Told he is stressed, anxious, confused, took it personally, blamed herself, like many women do. And the more she tried to get close, pull him back, the more he pulled away. It just made everything worse for both of them.
Until they understood the rubber band concept.
Exactly. Understanding that saved their relationship. Maggie learned to accept his need for space, resist that urge to chase, trust he would return. And Jeff, understanding his own cycle, became more confident, realizing his need for space didn't mean less love. It actually allowed him to commit more deeply.
So acceptance of the cycle was key.
Their success was understanding and accepting that men are like rubber bands, letting that natural cycle happen. So what does this mean for your interactions listening right now? When a man is pulling away, Gray advises that is not the time to talk or try to get closer.
Let him stretch.
Let him stretch. Give him the space. After some time, he will return naturally, often acting like nothing happened. He'll seem loving, supportive, present, engaged. That, Gray says, is the ideal time to talk, when he's naturally open, recharged, and craving intimacy again.
It's a real lesson in patience and trusting the process, isn't it?
Immensely. Trusting the cycle. Hashtag 3.2. Women are like waves.
Okay, so if men are like rubber bands needing that cycle of distance and return, what's the metaphor for women? This one's equally profound.
Ah, the wave.
Exactly. Grace says, a woman is like a wave. When she feels loved, her self-esteem rises and falls in a wave motion. She can be feeling incredibly good, riding high, reaching a peak of happiness, love, self-worth, feeling totally connected.
Life is good.
Life is good. But then, almost without warning, her mood might suddenly change. Her wave crashes down. And what's absolutely crucial here is understanding that this crash, it's temporary, and it serves a vital
What's
purpose.
the purpose?
Gray calls it a time for emotional house cleaning. During this downtime, she needs to talk about problems, express her feelings, just be heard and understood. It's how she processes any suppressed negative feelings or unfulfilled needs that bubble up from her subconscious.
So it's not necessarily triggered by something external, it's an internal cycle.
Often, yes. Gray's wife, Bonnie, describes it beautifully as going down into a dark well. It's like a conscious sinking into her unconscious self, this space of darkness, diffused feelings, where a host of unexplained emotions and vague feelings might surface.
That sounds intense.
It can be. She might feel overwhelmed, hopeless, unsupported, seemingly for no obvious external reason. But here's the beauty of the wave and the key insight for men. If she feels loved and supported through this bottoming out, not rescued from it, she will automatically start to feel better.
She'll rise up again.
She'll rise up again, often radiating immense love and gratitude. The support during the low point allows her to complete the cycle.
Okay, but how do men typically react to this wave?
Predictably, often with profound confusion and frustration. A man typically assumes her sudden mood change, her crash, is based solely on his behavior.
Right. If she's happy, he takes credit. If she's unhappy, he feels blamed.
Exactly. And crucially, he feels responsible for fixing it, which leads to immense frustration because he genuinely doesn't know how to fix something that isn't necessarily broken, but is just part of a natural internal cycle.
Like trying to stop the tide from going out.
Precisely. Remember Bill and Mary? Bill tried desperately to fix Mary's wave. He kept explaining why she didn't need to be upset, why her feelings were irrational,
Trying to reason her out of it.
which only made her feel more misunderstood, invalidated, and distressed. He was inadvertently preventing her from feeling better by trying to rescue her from the very natural, necessary process she needed to go through.
So trying to fix it actually makes it worse.
Often, yes. And this brings us to a really crucial, counterintuitive insight. Even when a man is succeeding in supporting a woman, she may become even more upset.
Wait, even when he's doing it right?
Yes. This isn't a sign he's failing. In fact, his support might actually be helping her to hit bottom sooner, which is a necessary part of her cycle before she can genuinely come up again.
So the increased upset might mean the process is working, not failing.
It can, yes. But men often misinterpret this thinking, my support isn't working, or she's just being difficult. Understanding the wave means accepting she might need to hit bottom before she can come up. It requires huge patience and empathy, not trying to cheer her up prematurely.
That makes sense. What about when the same issues seem to bunk again later?
Yes. Another deeply frustrating experience for men. A woman emerges from the well, seems healed or resolved. Fantastic. But then, maybe weeks or months later, when the wave inevitably crashes again, similar issues or feelings resurface.
And the man thinks, wait, I thought we dealt with this.
Exactly. He assumes the problems were fixed permanently. He becomes impatient, thinking, how many times do we have to go through this? This fundamental misunderstanding stops him from just validating and nurturing her feelings again during these crucial times. It leads to a feeling of futility for both of them.
So how can a man recognize when a woman might be going into her well needing that support? Are there signs?
Yes, Gray lists some common feelings and phrases. She might express feeling overwhelmed, saying things like, there's so much to do, or feeling hopeless, like, I don't know what to do.
Okay, those sound familiar.
She might also seem insecure, resentful, worried, confused, exhausted, passive, maybe even demanding, withholding, controlling, or disapproving. These are all potential warning signs for men to pause, listen empathetically, and offer support, not immediate solutions. Just be present.
Got it. And you mentioned Chris and Pam earlier, the couple who got richer.
Yes, their story really highlights how our needs evolve. Chris initially thought money would solve Pam's unhappiness. When they were poor, he could empathize easily because he shared her financial struggles.
Makes sense. Shared problem.
But as they got wealthier, he logically expected her to be happy all the time. He didn't understand why she was still upset, why new problems emerged. But the thing is, as a woman's financial needs get met, she naturally becomes more aware of and more vocal about her emotional needs.
The baseline shifts, revealing deeper needs.
Exactly. So, ironically, the richer they became, the more they fought. Why? Because Chris kept invalidating her fundamental need to be upset sometimes, or to express those deeper emotional needs. He thought the money should have fixed everything.
Proving that money really doesn't fulfill emotional needs.
Not at all. It's a powerful case study. So, reflecting on these rhythms, the rubber band, the wave, can you recall a time when you or a loved one had a sudden mood shift, maybe a withdrawal, without an obvious external trigger.
Yeah, probably.
How might thinking about the wave or rubber band help you understand that experience differently now? Maybe seeing it as a natural process rather than a personal failing or something needing an immediate fix.
That reframing could make a huge difference in how you respond, couldn't it? Less panic, more patience.
Absolutely. Hashtag TED for the 90-10 principle and the anatomy of arguments.
Okay, we've looked at these fundamental differences in coping, supporting, intimacy cycles. But what happens when those differences inevitably clash? When things erupt into conflict? Gray has a really fascinating take on why our arguments often feel so much bigger, so much more painful than the actual issue at hand seems to warrant.
Right, the disproportionate reaction.
Exactly. He introduces what he calls one of the paradoxes of loving relationships, that love brings up our unresolved feelings. Isn't that powerful?
It really is. The idea that feeling safe actually allows the old stuff to surface.
Yes. When we feel truly safe and deeply loved, a paradoxical thing happens. Repressed feelings, old wounds from our past, they tend to surface, almost demanding to be healed. And they temporarily overshadow our loving awareness. These aren't new feelings. They're old pains, finally feeling safe enough to come out.
But they don't announce themselves clearly.
Not at all. They don't say, "Hi, I'm your childhood wound from age 5." Instead, as Gray puts it, the pain of the past is projected onto the present.
So the current situation becomes a trigger for something much older.
Precisely.
Mhm.
This means things that normally would not be a big deal. You know, a misplaced item, a forgotten errand, a slightly critical tone suddenly hurt a lot because they inadvertently trigger these deep-seated, wounded feelings from the past.
It's like you're reacting through this distorting, magnifying lens of old, unhealed pain.
Exactly. And this brings us to Gray's crucial 90-10 principle. This is a game changer. When we are upset, he suggests, about 90% of the upset is related to our past and has nothing to do with what we think is upsetting us.
90%, that's huge.
It's massive. Only about 10% of our upset is appropriate to the present experience. So that seemingly minor argument about leaving a dirty dish in the sink, it might actually be triggering a childhood feeling of being unappreciated or overlooked or constantly criticized, making the current issue feel catastrophic, disproportionate, deeply personal.
Just recognizing that possibility could take so much heat out of an argument. Okay, maybe this isn't really about the dish.
Right. He uses a great analogy. If someone gently bumps your arm when it's healthy, it barely registers, right? Doesn't hurt much.
Nope.
But if you have an open wound, a sore spot, a deep bruise, and they even lightly poke or bump it, the pain is excruciating. It's totally disproportionate to the actual touch.
The sensitive spot.
In the same way, if unresolved feelings are coming up, if we have these old, unhealed emotional wounds, we will be overly sensitive to the normal pokes and bumps of relating. Our reactions get amplified, sometimes explosive, because they're not just tied to the mind or present annoyance, but to a much larger, older, often unacknowledged pain.
So arguments are rarely just about the thing. They're often about old stuff surfacing.
Exactly. Which means our loving relationships, ironically, bring this stuff to the surface so it can be healed. But we mistake it for being about the present moment. This raises a really important question for you listening. How often are we reacting to shadows of the past rather than the reality of the present? And how might simply recognizing that shift our whole approach to conflict?
It requires a lot of self-awareness, doesn't it? To even consider that 90% might be old baggage.
It really does.
Yeah.
But it's potentially transformative.
And building on that 90-10 principle, if we zoom out to look at the broader anatomy of relationship conflict, it becomes really clear why so many couples get stuck. Gray notes this universal pattern. Most couples start out arguing about one thing and within 5 minutes are arguing about the way they are arguing.
Oh yeah, the meta-argument. It's not what you said, it's how you said it.
Exactly. And fundamentally, that happens because we are not feeling loved in that moment. When we're experiencing emotional pain, whether it's the 10% from the present or the 90% from the past, it's incredibly hard to be loving, patient, objective. The closer the relationship, the harder it can be to hear your partner's point of view without reacting defensively.
Makes sense. Your defenses are up.
Right. And the book outlines 4 common self-protective stances people instinctively take to avoid getting hurt in arguments, sometimes called the 4 Fs.
Okay, whatever.
First is fight. This is the offensive stance. Blaming, judging, criticizing, maybe yelling, trying to intimidate the partner into backing down.
Trying to win through force.
Yeah. But while it might feel like a short-term win, Gray warns intimidation always weakens trust in a relationship. It erodes the very foundation. It's self-defeating.
Okay, fine. What's next?
Second is flight. We talked about this with Martians in caves. Withdrawing, becoming silent, physically leaving the room, emotionally shutting down to avoid the confrontation.
The escape route. Creates distance, though.
Definitely. Third is fake. This is pretending everything's okay, suppressing your true feelings, maybe smiling through the pain, agreeing superficially just to keep the peace.
The peace at any price approach.
Right. But suppressing true feelings is like building a dam. It eventually bursts, often leading to built-up resentment and a much bigger explosion later.
Okay, fight, flight, fake. What's the last one?
And finally, fold. This means giving in, sacrificing your own needs, desires, opinions to appease your partner and just end the argument.
Seems cooperative on the surface, maybe.
It can seem like it. But continually folding inevitably leads to deep, simmering resentment. It poisons the well of intimacy over time. All four, fight, flight, fake, fold, gray argues, are counterproductive in the long run. Can you think of a time when maybe faking it or folding actually led to a bigger problem down the road in your own relationships?
Oh, absolutely. Storing up grievances never ends well.
Exactly. Now, delving deeper, Gray explores the secret, hidden reasons men and women argue, often tied to their primary needs being unmet.
Okay, beyond the surface issue.
Right. For men, common triggers include feeling criticized or unaccepted when their partner gets upset, not feeling admired when she offers advice, feeling unappreciated when she blames him for her unhappiness.
Hitting those core Martian needs. Trust, acceptance, appreciation, admiration.
Exactly. When those feel threatened, even subtly, arguments flare up. And similarly, women argue when their primary needs are unmet. She might argue because she feels dismissed when he minimizes her feelings.
It's not a big deal response.
Or feeling neglected when he forgets important dates or doesn't offer unsolicited support. Remember that Venusian love is never having to ask. Or feeling unsafe to be herself when he blames her for being upset.
Hitting her core needs. Caring, understanding, respect, devotion, validation, reassurance.
Precisely. When those are missing, her wave crashes. Arguments often follow. Gray shares this personal, really illuminating picnic example with Bonnie.
Okay, what happened at the picnic?
After a lovely picnic, he starts talking aggressively about some stock investments, really excited about the prospect. Bonnie suddenly gets upset, not necessarily about the investment itself, but because she felt he was planning it without truly considering her ideas. She felt excluded.
Okay, feeling unheard, maybe disregarded.
And crucially, she felt he wasn't respecting her right to be upset about it. His argument, from his perspective, was about the logic of the investment choices. He was trying to explain, justify, but his defensiveness was fueled by his underlying anger that she was upset with him, which he heard as criticism.
So he's defending the stocks. She's upset about feeling dismissed. Classic disconnect.
Totally. She needed to be heard and understood, not explained to. It illustrates that common, frustrating argument cycle. Woman expresses upset about XYZ. Man explains why she shouldn't be upset about XYZ.
She feels invalidated, gets more upset.
He feels her disapproval, gets upset, thinks she's being unfair. It can spiral into a hollow apology from her just to stop it, or it escalates into deeper disconnection.
So how do you break that cycle?
What's truly insightful and transformative here is understanding that resolving conflict isn't about proving who's right or wrong. It's about validating feelings and addressing those unmet needs. The way to break the cycle is recognizing these hidden reasons and consciously responding with the specific love and support the other person genuinely needs to feel heard, understood, and valued.
It comes back to empathy, not argument.
Always.
Okay, so we've navigated the tricky terrain of arguments, the 90-10 rule, the hidden reasons. But how do we pivot from conflict to actually cultivating deeper, more consistent connection? Now it feels like we're trying to measure our efforts, doesn't it? Like, am I doing enough?
Yeah, that feeling of keeping score.
Well, Gray offers another truly surprising insight here. Men and women actually keep score in relationships, fundamentally differently. And understanding these unseen, often subconscious scorecards can make a massive, tangible difference day to day.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How do women keep score?
For a woman, when it comes to gestures of love, Gray clarifies, big things and little things score 1 point. All gifts of love are equal and equally needed, big and small.
1 point for everything. Taking out the trash equals a diamond necklace.
In terms of filling her love tank, yes. This is crucial. She needs an abundance of small, consistent expressions of love. A compliment, a thoughtful text, doing a chore without being asked, just as much as she appreciates the grand gestures like a romantic getaway.
So it's the frequency and consistency of small things that really matter.
Exactly. Washing the dishes, bringing home flowers, a genuine compliment, a spontaneous hug, these all contribute equally, 1 point each, to building her sense of being cherished. It's the accumulation.
Okay, that makes sense. How do men keep score then? It must be different.
Very different. Men give points differently. Their love tank, according to Gray, is primarily filled by a woman's loving reaction to his behavior and, crucially, her appreciation for what he does.
Ah, so it's less about the act itself and more about her response to the act.
Yes, this is a game changer for many women. If he is not appreciated, then her contribution, say, to domestic duties, no matter how huge or time-consuming, is nearly meaningless and completely unimportant to him.
Wow. That's blunt.
It is. He needs to feel his efforts, his contributions, his problem-solving are genuinely seen and valued. His motivation comes from feeling like her hero, not just, a roommate doing chores.
So appreciation is the currency for his love tank.
Largely, yes. And the book also introduces the idea of a penalty point system for men.
Uh-oh. Minus points.
Minus points. Men give penalty points when they feel unloved and unsupported. Reactions from a woman that come across as untrusting, rejecting, disapproving, or unappreciative lead to immediate deductions on his internal scorecard.
Which probably makes him withdraw or become defensive.
Exactly. It causes him to feel less motivated to contribute further. It's that vicious cycle. Lack of appreciation leads to less effort, which leads to less appreciation.
Okay, well, let's revisit Chuck and Pam, the couple whose finances improved but arguments increased. How does the scorecard apply there?
Perfectly. Chuck thought by significantly increasing his income, working longer hours, he was racking up huge points. Buying love and happiness, essentially. He assumed his hefty paycheck scored big.
A big thing should equal big points in his mind.
Right. But from Pam's Venusian perspective, his bigger income meant he was around less. She was doing more at home, and his efforts weren't meeting her emotional needs. So his hefty paycheck scored him only 1 point each month with Pam, no matter how big it was.
Only 1 point, because it was one big thing per month.
Exactly. While she needed lots of little things daily, this led to huge resentment because he wasn't doing the daily gestures of care, attention, appreciation that truly filled her love tank. His scorecard logic completely missed hers.
That's a huge disconnect based on how they measure love differently.
It really is. To make this super concrete and actionable, Gray gives that list of 101 ways to score points with a woman. And they're mostly small, everyday things.
Like what? Give us a few examples.
Okay, like upon returning home, find her first before doing anything else and give her a hug. Simple acknowledgement. Or, tying back to earlier, resist the temptation to solve her problems. Empathize instead.
Validation scores a point.
Yes. Give her 20 minutes of unsolicited quality attention. No phone, no distractions. Validate her feelings when she's upset. And even tell her I love you at least a couple of times every day. Even something as seemingly minor as leave the bathroom seat down.
The classic.
It scores a point. Because it's a consistent, thoughtful gesture. It's these small, consistent, thoughtful actions that fill her love tank point by point.
Okay, so lots of little things for her. How can women score big points with men then? Is there a way to get more than 1 point?
Yes. It's all about showing that appreciation and acceptance, especially when he's vulnerable or messes up. For example, if a man makes a mistake or upsets the woman he loves, and she responds with understanding and acceptance instead of punishment, criticism, or unsolicited advice, he feels loved and gives her a point in return.
Okay, acceptance after a mistake. How big are we talking?
Get this. Imagine he gets them lost while driving. Instead of criticizing, she playfully says, well, we would never have seen this beautiful sunset if we had taken the most direct route. Gray suggests he gives her 20 or 30 points for that.
20 or 30 points. For turning a mistake into a positive.
Yes. That understanding, that appreciation of his efforts, even when flawed, it fills his love tank dramatically. It affirms his competence, his worthiness of her love, despite the mistake.
Wow. So grace and appreciation are the multipliers for his scorecard.
Seems like it. So as you go about your day, maybe think about the scorecard in your own relationships. What little things do you genuinely appreciate? And what might your partner appreciate from you that you haven't realized makes such a difference to their internal score?
Just asking that question could open up a whole new way of connecting, couldn't it?
Definitely. Hashtag tag 5.2. The art of asking for support.
Okay, so we know how men and women keep score differently, how their love tanks get filled, but what about actually asking for what you need? This is another fundamental Martian-Venusian difference that causes endless friction if misunderstood.
Right. How do you ask for support without triggering defensiveness or feeling like you shouldn't have to ask.
Exactly. On Venus, the motto often seems to be, love is never having to ask. Women operating from this belief often expect their partner to just know what they need, to spontaneously anticipate and offer support if they truly love them.
The mind-reading expectation.
Pretty much. An unaware woman, Gray says, might even purposefully not ask as a subconscious test. If he really loved me, he'd offer to help with this. When he doesn't offer, she resents him, completely unaware that he is waiting to be asked.
Because on Mars, it's different.
Totally different. On Mars, the operating principle is basically if you want support, you simply have to ask for it. Men aren't instinctively motivated to offer support proactively in the same way women might expect. They generally need a direct invitation.
Okay, so women need to ask more directly. But there's a catch, right?
Huge catch. Men do not respond well to demands or resentment. When a man hears a demanding tone, no matter how nicely you phrase your request, all he hears is that he is not giving enough.
Ouch. It triggers that feeling of inadequacy again.
Yes. And his tendency then is to give less until he feels appreciated for what he's already giving. It's that deep sensitivity to feeling criticized.
So how do you ask assertively but not demandingly?
The book outlines 3 crucial steps for women, though men can use them too when asking for support. Step 1. Be brief, direct, and use would you, will you.
Word choice matters.
Critically. Gray highlights the huge difference between could you empty the trash, it's just a question about capability, yes I could, physically, and would you empty the trash.
What's the difference in impact?
Would you is a direct request. It frames it as an opportunity for him to be the good guy, to feel helpful and valued by saying yes. Indirect requests, like hinting the groceries are still in the car, are often heard by men as subtle expectations or demands, which triggers resistance.
So direct invitation, not implied command.
Exactly. He needs an invitation to serve, to be a hero. Step 2. Practice asking for more, even if he says no.
Ask for more, even if he's already feeling unappreciated.
Well, first, make sure he does feel genuinely appreciated for what he's already doing. Fill his tank first. Then practice asking for support in situations where you might normally hold back because you anticipate a no or fear rejection.
Okay, push the comfort zone a bit.
Yes, but here's the absolute key. You have to genuinely accept no gracefully. No pouting, no withdrawing, no punishment.
Make it safe for him to say no.
Exactly. The author emphasizes that men are much more willing to say yes if they have the freedom to say no. By making it safe for him to refuse without consequence, without losing points, you paradoxically increase his willingness to say yes when he genuinely can and wants to. It builds trust.
That's really counterintuitive, but makes sense. Freedom increases willingness.
Okay, step 3. Step 3.
The pregnant pause, the grumbles. This is powerful. One of the key elements of assertive asking is to remain silent after you have asked for support.
Don't justify, don't explain, just wait.
Just wait.
Yeah.
Allow him to moan, groan, scowl, growl, mumble, and grumble. Gray calls these his grumbles.
The grumbles. Are they bad?
Not necessarily a sign of unwillingness. Often they're just a symptom of his current focus, his internal gears shifting from what he was doing to your request. It's him processing, maybe stretching that rubber band a bit. His acceptance often follows the grumbles.
Can you give an example? Gray shares a story. Bonnie, after a long day, asked him to get milk on his way to bed. He grumbled internally and externally. Why didn't you ask earlier? Can't you get it? Classic grumbles.
Oh, and Bonnie.
Having learned this, she remained silent, trusting. No further comment. When he came back with the milk, she was profoundly, authentically appreciative, filling his tank. Over time, Gray says, his grumbles lessened, and he even started offering to get milk. He'd been programmed by her appreciation and her non-reactive silence during the grumble phase.
Wow. The power of the pause and appreciation. So why are men so sensitive to requests feeling like demands?
It circles back to that deep, fundamental need to feel accepted just as they are. Any request for more or to give more can inadvertently signal in their internal logic, you're not good enough as you are, I don't accept you.
So it feels conditional.
Exactly. Which is why assertive, non-demanding, and profoundly appreciative asking is so vital. It validates him while still clearly communicating your needs. It's an art form, really.
It sounds like it takes practice, a lot of practice. Okay, building on all these insights, communication styles, scorecards, asking for support, there's another truly transformative tool. Gray offers for cultivating connection and, crucially, healing relationship wounds. It's called the love letter technique.
Ah, yes, the love letter. It sounds nice, but it's quite deep, isn't it?
It really is. Its core purpose is to provide a structured, safe way for both men and women to explore, feel, and express negative feelings. The idea is that by doing so, they lose their power and positive feelings reemerge.
So it's a way to process negativity constructively.
Exactly. It allows for a deeper level of emotional processing than just trying to talk things out in the heat of the moment, which, as we know, often just escalates the conflict.
Right, talking when you're flooded rarely works well.
So the love letter has this specific five-part structure. It's almost like a guided meditation for your emotions. You express feelings of first anger, then sadness, then fear, then regret, and finally love.
Anger, sadness, fear, regret, love, in that order.
In that order. This precise format, whether you write it out, type it, or even just do it mentally, allows for a full emotional journey. By consciously addressing each layer, from the surface anger down to the deeper sadness and fear, you can systematically work through it.
Kind of like peeling an onion of emotion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you eventually reach a place of more genuine understanding, maybe compassion, forgiveness. This whole process ultimately leads to more loving and centered communication when you finally do speak with your partner about the issue.
Can you give an example of how this works?
Sure. Gray provides several powerful ones. Think about Samantha. She was justifiably angry about her partner being consistently late. Her love letter started with the obvious, I am so angry that you are late.
Okay, step one, anger.
But through the process, she moved to deeper feelings. Sadness. I feel sad when I have to wait. Fear. I'm afraid you will never be responsible. Regret. I'm sorry if I sound critical. And finally, love and forgiveness. I love you. I know you are doing your best. I forgive you for forgetting.
Wow, that's quite a transformation from just raw anger.
Isn't it? And importantly, it often concludes with a clear, concise request in a PS. Like, PS, would you be willing to call me next time if you know you're going to be late? This whole process allows her to communicate her needs much more effectively, from love and clarity, not just lashing out.
That makes sense. Any other examples?
Yeah, Virginia felt profound indifference from her husband when he was lost in his reading, even when she tried to initiate connection. Her letter processed feelings like sadness, I am sad that you don't want to be with me, and fear. I'm afraid you don't even know why I am upset.
Getting to the core vulnerability.
Right, and it ultimately led her back to a desire for connection. I love you. That's why I brought the mango. I wanted to do something to please you. It shows how the process can turn deep hurt into a constructive desire for connection instead of letting resentment build.
And can men use this technique too? It seems very focused on feelings.
Absolutely. Gray emphasizes its power for men, especially those who might struggle with expressing vulnerability. Take Michael. He found himself resisting his partner's ideas. His letter expressed his anger about feeling controlled, his fear of upsetting her, his regret for being cold.
Working through his own defensiveness.
Yes, before moving to love and commitment that still honored his individuality. I want to be your hero, and I don't want to just agree with everything. I need to be me, and I support you in being you. It helped him articulate his own needs for admiration and autonomy while still being supportive.
That's really interesting, using it to understand his own reactions.
And even for seemingly trivial stuff, Bill used it when his wife was upset about uncollected mail. Seemed minor to him. His letter moved from regret, I'm sorry that I didn't bring home the mail, and fear, I'm afraid I can't make you happy, to real empathy and love. You just need a hug and some empathy. I'm sorry. Sometimes I don't know what to do and I start making you be in the wrong.
Recognizing her underlying need wasn't about the mail, but about validation and care.
Exactly. Beyond the main love letter, Gray also introduces the response letter. This is where you, ideally, write out what you actually want and need to hear from your partner.
Like scripting their ideal response. Isn't that manipulative?
He frames it less as manipulation and more as achieving clarity for yourself. It increases your own openness to receiving support. And by consciously imagining your partner responding lovingly, perfectly, you might actually make it easier for them to do so in reality, kind of preparing the ground.
Interesting. Priming yourself for a positive outcome.
Yeah. And he mentions variations too. Mini love letters for quick, on-the-spot emotional releases, maybe just a quick mental run-through. Monster love letters for venting really intense feelings, maybe even burning them afterwards for catharsis.
Getting it out without necessarily delivering it.
Right. And displacement love letters, specifically for addressing those deeper childhood wounds, the 90% stuff, that gets triggered in adult relationships.
Wow, it's a really versatile tool.
It is. But the learning curve with this kind of conscious, empathetic communication, it can feel steep. like learning a new language. Gray reminds us to expect communication always to be easy is unrealistic.
Good reminder. It takes work.
It's a learnable skill,
Mm-hmm.
but it requires immense patience, conscious effort, and unlearning old, often unhealthy patterns, probably from childhood. We have to be patient and appreciative of every little step we and our partners take.
Slow progress is still progress.
Definitely. So maybe for you listening, consider a current frustration or unresolved feeling you have. Something lingering, maybe causing disproportionate pain. If you were to write a love letter right now, even just mentally, what would be the key feelings you'd honestly express in each part? Anger, sadness, fear, regret, and love.
How might just structuring those feelings shift your perspective on the situation? It's a powerful exercise.
It really could be. Hashtag tag 6, the seasons of love, and a call to action. Hashtag tag check 6.1, love's ever-changing landscape.
So, as we start to bring this deep dive toward a close, Gray offers one more beautiful and I think absolutely essential metaphor for understanding the long-term journey of relationships.
Okay, what is it? We've had caves, rubber bands, waves.
He says, "A relationship is like a garden. If it is to thrive, it must be watered regularly. And just like a garden has its distinct, inevitable seasons, so too does love, expecting eternal spring. It's not only unrealistic, it sets us up for disappointment."
Ah, the seasons of love. I like that. So what are they?
He describes 4 seasons of love with real insight. First, obviously, is spring. That's the effortless, magical beginning. When our partner seems to be the perfect fit, everything feels new, exciting, works harmoniously, challenges melt away, feels like it will last forever.
The honeymoon phase.
Nah.
Blissful.
Then, inevitably, comes summer. This is the season of hard work. This is when frustration and disappointment arise. Weeds need to be uprooted. We realize our partner isn't perfect. Their differences become challenging. Love doesn't feel effortless anymore.
This is where the real work begins.
Exactly, and this is often where many couples give up. Gray notes because they unrealistically expect it to be spring all the time. They blame their partners instead of understanding this is a natural, necessary phase of growth, of tending the garden.
So you have to get through the summer heat and weeds. What comes next?
If you nurture the garden through summer, tend to those weeds of frustration, you reach autumn. This is the golden time, rich and fulfilling. It's the harvest of summer's efforts. It leads to a more mature love that accepts and understands our partner's imperfections as well as our own. It's deeper, more resilient, forged through shared effort.
A comfortable, appreciative love.
Nice.
And
Finally, there's winter. This is described as a time of rest, reflection, and renewal, a necessary period of introspection. But it's also often when our painful feelings emerge. This is when men hibernate in their caves and women sink to the bottom of their wells, revisiting unresolved past hurts, the 90% stuff again.
so a time for individual healing and quiet growth before the next spring.
Exactly, a quiet period before the cycle begins anew. What's truly crucial here is recognizing that love is seasonal. These cycles are natural, predictable, even necessary for deeper growth. We mustn't expect our partners to always be loving or even to remember how to be loving, especially when they're in their own winter or deep in their cave.
We forget the tools when things get tough.
We do. In the heat of summer, when things are difficult, we might forget everything we've learned. In the cold of winter, doubt, hopelessness, old pains can resurface, making us question everything. But Gray reminds us it's often darkest before the dawn. Understanding these seasons allows for immense patience, perseverance, and trust in the natural rhythm.
It normalizes the hard times, makes them feel less like failure.
Precisely. And remember, Gray notes, quote, "To learn something new, we need to hear it 200 times. This book, then, acts like a map to lead you through uncharted lands again and again. It reminds us that unlearning old patterns takes consistent time, repeated effort, and a gentle acceptance of love's ebb and flow."
And as we embrace this, well, beautiful seasonal journey of love, it's really important to acknowledge how our past often deeply influences our present communication, doesn't it?
Oh, profoundly. Our upbringing shapes so much.
Many of us grew up learning, frankly, unsuccessful communication skills, or maybe just lacking healthy ones altogether. Perhaps our parents avoided arguments, creating this false peace where feelings got stuffed down.
Or the opposite extreme, yelling, blaming, maybe worse.
Right. This widespread lack of healthy role models means we often really struggle as adults to express difficult feelings lovingly, respectfully. We end up perpetuating cycles of misunderstanding without even realizing it.
So the path forward has to involve healing that inner stuff.
Crucially, yes. Gray emphasizes that the very act of avoiding our negative emotions gives them the power to control our lives. Those unresolved feelings from childhood. They lie dormant, often repressed, but they're just waiting for moments of safety and love in our adult relationships to surface.
The paradox of love bringing things up again.
Yes. By consciously learning to listen to and nurture our inner emotions, almost like a compassionate parent tending to a child's hurt, those feelings gradually lose their grip. They can finally be processed and healed. This self-compassion is just fundamental to healthy external communication.
Which highlights the immense power of listening, doesn't it? Both to others and ourselves.
It's almost magical. When you take the time to truly listen to your own feelings, acknowledge them without judgment, you are, in effect, saying to the little feeling person inside, "You matter, you deserve to be heard, and I care enough to listen."
That's a beautiful way to put it, self-validation.
This profound act is a crucial, often overlooked step towards healing. It helps us become more capable of responding to situations in a loving, centered, effective way, rather than just reacting from old pain.
And we don't have to do this inner work entirely alone, right?
Not at all. Gray really champions the power of the group. He highlights the immense value of external support, like small, structured support groups. He mentions he and Bonnie actively participate in men's and women's groups.
Why are groups so helpful?
He says they can magnify personal growth exponentially. It frees individuals from looking to each other as the sole source of support, which takes immense pressure off the primary relationship.
Diversifying your support network.
Exactly. And just listening to others share their struggles, their successes, our own problems often shrink in perspective. They become more manageable. It's about building this wider empathetic network to help navigate all the beautiful, challenging seasons of love.
Makes a lot of sense. Community matters. #TechHowd outro.
And so we conclude our deep dive into John Gray's truly profound work, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Wow, we covered a lot.
We really did, from the genesis of understanding those Martian and Venusian differences.
To navigating communication, the caves, the talk, recognizing intimacy rhythms, rubber bands and waves.
Understanding that crucial 90-10 principle, the hidden anatomy of arguments.
And finally, cultivating connection through the unseen scorecard and that transformative love letter technique.
All within the framework of the ever-changing cyclical seasons of love.
The core message that just resonates throughout this book is so clear, so powerful. Embracing these inherent gender differences. It isn't about separation or blame. It's a practical path to greater tolerance, acceptance, and profound understanding.
Not just for our partners, but crucially for ourselves, too.
Exactly. These aren't just abstract ideas. They are incredibly actionable tools for deeper connection, for building lasting, passionate love. We sincerely challenge you, listening right now, to let the powerful ideas within Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus truly enhance your life, your relationships, your self-understanding.
And if we connect this back to that bigger picture, this podcast really reveals that while the journey of relationships will always have its seasons, the effortless joy of spring, the hard work of summer, the quiet reflection of winter with these insights, you're not just enduring, you're actively cultivating a garden that can truly flourish. You're transforming challenges into opportunities for deeper intimacy, resilience, and growth.
Beautifully put. Now, if you want to dive even deeper into John Gray's work, we definitely encourage you to engage with the author online. You can explore a ton of additional resources, workshops, seminars, coaching by visiting his website. It's www.marsvenus.com.
Marsvenus.com, easy to remember.
And of course, we highly recommend you purchase your own copy of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, published by HarperCollins. Keep these invaluable insights and practical tools right at your fingertips whenever you need that reminder, that map.
It's definitely a book worth having on the shelf.
Absolutely. And we genuinely love hearing from you. Please share your aha moments or maybe how these ideas have impacted your own relationships. You can find us on social media using #PlayingBooksPodcast. Your active participation really makes this community thrive.
Yeah, we learn from you too.
We really do. Thank you so much for joining us on this enlightening podcast. If you found value in our discussion today, please take just a moment to follow and subscribe to the Plain Books Podcast wherever you're listening.
It really helps others find the show.
It does. And please share this episode with anyone you think might benefit. Help us spread the power of understanding. Until next time.
Keep reading, keep learning,
and keep growing in love.